Hello everyone. So today we will look at the concept of making sentences in German. So to make a sentence, we need two important things. We need a subject and a verb plus verb. And this is true in English also. And this verb is here the main verb, right? So it defines what is going on in the sentence. So for example, we have I cook, right? So we have the subject here, and then we have the verb, which is the main verb, and it defines the activity, what is going on. So in the similar way, in German we also need these two things, right? We need a subject and then we need a verb. For example, I can write the same sentence and say ich koche, right? So I have the subject as a personal pronoun, which is I, and then koche is the verb, uh, which is conjugated with respect to ish, and then it says I cook, right? So ish koche. So most of the verbs in German are in infinitive form, right? What does it mean? So they are written like this: kochen, spielen, laufen, and so on. So this infinitive form has always en at the end, right? And then depending upon the subject in the sentence, you conjugate these verb, right? You change the ending, and then you add something or remove something. So here for ish I added a e, right? So that's the conjugations of the verb, right? So here this kind, then you can make a sentence, but you can also extend the sentence by adding subject and then more information, right? For example, I can say ich koche die Essen. I cook the food, right? And when you do it like this, then you will have a subject, and then you have verb, and then which is the main verb, and then you have the object, right? So in this structure, you have the three elements now: subject, object, and the corresponding verb, which defines the activity. And in German, the rule is you always have the main verb at the second position, which means you should never move the verb from the second position. Everything else can come around it, before it, or after it, right? The subject usually stays before the verb, and then the object stays after the verb, but the verb is always at the second position, right? For example, I can extend this sentence. I say morgen koche ich die Essen, right? So here I am saying tomorrow I will cook the food, or tomorrow I cook the food, right? So now I introduce this Morgan, which is some extra information, and it's telling me a time point, right? And then I have the subject here, and then the object here, and you can see I kept the verb at the second position, and it is conjugated according to the subject, right? But also I can write this in another way. I can write it like the original way, as it said before. So I can say ich koche morgen die Essen, right? So now what I did was I just followed the original sentence structure, and then you can see I have the subject, then object here, and then we have the verb at the second position, and then I have some extra information, right, which is here the time point. You can also have the location in the sentence, right? And then for example, at your apartment you will do this, or in at your mother's place or something like this, but this extra information comes in between. But you always put the verb at the second position, right, in the sentence, no matter how you write the same sentence, but it should always come at the second position, right? So this is the most important rule in German. You should never get it wrong. And then we can see this through some examples. So let's make the sentences here and try to remember we will always put the verb in the second position, no matter how I write the sentence, right? How I can replace things here and there. So I will do the both example where I can play around and show you. For example, we have this first example: in the disco wir gehen morgen, right? So I can say morgen gehen wir in the disco, right? So let's look at the structure. I have a time point at the starting, no problem here, and then I have the subject we, and then I have a location or the object of the sentence in the disco, where are we going. But I kept the word at the second position, it's not changing, right? I have to keep it at the second position. But I can write it in the another way, right? As I showed you before, I can now write it in a normal way and say wir gehen morgen in the disco, and this works also, no problem. And then we can find out where is everything in the sentence. So we have the subject, we have the object here, and then I put the verb at the second position gain, and everything else in the between, right? So always we will put the verb at the second position. So let's do another one, right? This I can write ich möchte ein Käsebrot, right? I would like a cheese bread. And then again, you can find out that the verb is at the second position, möchte. And this is here is the modal verb, but still any main verb, any verb here is always as the second position. We will come at the more complex structure also, where you can have two verb in the situation, but then you will have the helping verb at the second position, and then you will conjugate it, and then that stays there, and the other verb goes at the end. So that comes later on, but for now the simplest structure we follow this, right? So you can also pause here and look at these examples and try to build your own sentence, and then you can compare with what I did and how I did it, right? Okay, so let's move on and try to do all these sentences, right? So we have Professor ein Dummer ist Herr Meier. Herr Meier ist ein dummer Professor, right? So verb at the second position ist. Kilo 6,75 Euro Erdbeeren ein kostet, right? So we will say ein Kilo Erdbeeren kostet 6,75 Euro. Now, so we have verb at the second position. Now you will see, oh, that, but this doesn't look like a second position. We have ein Kilo Erdbeeren, right? But here in a sentence, so here it means is at the first position, we have this everything, right? So you can put many things, many words in one position, and then the verb is the second position, and then you have everything else at third, because ein Kilo Erdbeeren is about the same thing, right? So this is the Erdbeeren is the main thing, our subject, and there is some information about which is 1 kilo. 1 kilo of Erdbeeren costed. So that the second position doesn't mean that at the first position you will have just one word. It doesn't mean that. You can also fill more and more words, but then it is information about something, and then comes the verb, right? For example, in the Morgan case, Morgan gehen wir in the disco, at the first position I put the time point, that okay, this is the right. So I can also put like the location also and everything, right? So remember, verb at second position, and at the first position, not necessarily that we will have only one word, right? It could be many words. Okay, let's move on. So, ins Kino meiner Schwester geht heute. So, again, heute geht meine Schwester ins Kino. Again, second position. Hat Björn Kinder keine? Björn hat keine Kinder. And second position. Jetzt wir Schach spielen. Jetzt, yes means now, so we can put it here. Time position, jetzt spielen wir Schach. Second position. Then arbeiten Siemens bei Herr Kessler. Yeah. So Herr Kessler arbeitet bei Siemens. So second position, right? And then meine Italienerin ist Freundin. Then meine Freundin ist Italienerin. So here ist. Yeah. Am Nachmittag Fußball ich spiele. So then we can again do time point here. Am Nachmittag spiele ich Fußball. That's second. So again, just to remind you, I can also write ich spiele am Nachmittag Fußball. So this also goes. There's nothing wrong with the sentence, but I just made sure that the verb is at the second position, and the previously also I made sure the verb is at the second position, right? And then the everything information, right? The time point is am Nachmittag. We have this time point, so that's on one position, right? So now moving on. Der Maler hässliche Maltbilder. So then der Maler malt hässliche Bilder. He paints hässlich, ugly paintings. Yeah. So now we have the last one. In der Nacht schläft 8 Stunden Michael. Right? So we can say Michael schläft in der Nacht 8 Stunden. Right? And then we can also have the other way around. In der Nacht schläft Michael 8 Stunden. Right? So we can change this. So hope this was clear with the examples. If you have any doubt, you can write it in the comment section. You can also write your answers for a couple of these sentences. What did you find? And then if you have any suggestion, then we can discuss more in the next video. And if you have any doubt, we can also talk about those doubts in the next video or in the comment section. Till then, bye.